It's a known fact that no one lives forever, and even a game as beautiful as football can't keep its own alive. Like other professionals, footballers die. Since football became a thing, lots of footballers have passed on, and it might be difficult to keep track of all of them. This is as expected. Although we might be unable to talk about absolutely every football player that has died, we can talk about some of the most famous players that died in a given period. From Garrincha to Diego Maradona, these are the greatest footballers who have died from 1983 to 2023. We'll go on in a bit, but first, like and share this video. Also, subscribe to this channel to see more videos like this. Mané Garrincha, 1983. Born Manuel Francisco dos Santos in 1933, Garrincha was a Brazilian football player that played on the right wing. He is considered one of the best dribblers of all time, played alongside Pelé, and won 2 World Cups. Garrincha was successful on the pitch, but not the best of personalities off the pitch. He was given to alcohol. This seemed like a mere bad habit, however, it played a role in his death. The football legend died on the 20th of January 1983. The cause of his death was cirrhosis of the liver. Garrincha's death might have been traced to his lifestyle, but sometimes football players simply get sick. Paolo Rossi. Paolo Rossi was relatively unknown before the 1982 World Cup. However, after taking part in this World Cup, which he won and scored 6 goals, he became a household name. Winning the World Cup was just one of Rossi's achievements. In addition to winning the World Cup, Rossi also played for Juventus and AC Milan and went on to work as a pundit after hanging his boots. The 1982 World Cup winner died in 2020 at the age of 62 after an incurable sickness. Socrates. Socrates was a Brazilian footballer that made his mark in the Brazilian midfield. Although famous as a footballer, Socrates was a medical doctor and was popularly called Dr. Socrates because of his medical degree. The player, who was recognized as the South American Player of the Year in 1983, passed on in 2011 after his health deteriorated. He had a special love for alcohol, and his death was linked to this. Johan Cruyff. Speaking of linking a player's lifestyle to their death, Cruyff could have lived longer if he had been uninterested in smoking. Johan Cruyff is generally regarded as the best player from the Netherlands and arguably one of the greatest players of all time. He was a football player and manager and won the Ballon d'Or 3 times. Cruyff was not just a great player, he is regarded as one of the best managers of the game. The Dutch sensation might have been a genius of the game, but he had a smoking addiction that he was able to deal with. However, it appeared the effects of this addiction never left, as he was diagnosed with lung cancer in 2015. He died 1 year later in Barcelona. Not all footballers die early. Some live long, satisfying lives. Sir Bobby Charlton. Bobby Charlton is a legend of the game and an English football icon. He made his mark for England and Manchester United. The former Manchester United player who won the World Cup in 1966 and the European Cup 2 years later is considered by many as the greatest United player of all time. The player, who never saw a red card in 106 caps for England and 758 for United, passed on in 2023 at 86. He had been diagnosed with dementia before his death. George Best. George Best was born on the 22nd of May 1946 and passed on the 25th of November 2005. The Northern Irish footballer played for a couple of clubs. However, he was strongly associated with Manchester United. The European Footballer of the Year in 1968 died in South Kensington, London, after a kidney infection. Diego Maradona. Before Lionel Messi came on the scene, Diego Maradona was the best thing that happened to Argentine football. The former Barcelona and Napoli player was a 2-time World Cup winner and one of the best dribblers of his generation. Maradona had an addiction to drugs and alcohol. As much as it will be difficult to say that was what killed him, he didn't generally have a healthy lifestyle. In addition to having a questionable lifestyle, Maradona struggled with weight gain and, although unconfirmed, his weight was linked to his death in 2020. Diego won 2 World Cups, but this next player won 3. Pelé. Pelé is the only player to have won 3 World Cups. The Brazilian never played in Europe. Nonetheless, he is considered one of the best players of the game. Alongside Maradona, Messi, and CR7, he easily falls into the top 4 players of all time. Pelé made a name for himself as an active player. However, even long after he retired, he was still very influential. Pelé died on the 29th of December 2022 after battling colon cancer. Fernando Ricksen. Fernando had quite a stellar career. He played as a right midfielder and a right back. Also, he was able to win 3 Scottish League Cups, 2 Scottish Cups, and 2 Scottish Premier League titles. Fernando's professional career lasted close to 2 decades, and in this period, he played for a couple of clubs. However, he is most remembered for playing for Rangers. Rickson was diagnosed with motor neuron disease in 2013 and died 6 years later. He was 43 years old. Robert Enke. Death is inevitable and will always be painful, but some deaths are more painful. Robert Enke could have lived a lot longer. However, it appeared the German goalkeeper was tired of living as he took his own life in 2009. He had been battling depression 6 years prior, and he thought the best way out was to end things. So, he threw himself in front of a train after dropping a suicide note. He was 32. The next set of players died on the pitch. Before we see them, kindly subscribe to this channel if you are enjoying this video. Phil O'Donnell. Speaking of painful deaths, Robert Enke's death might have been the most painful in this video. However, Phil's is also very painful. The late Scottish professional footballer played for Sheffield, Wednesday, Celtic, and Motherwell. Phil was perhaps not a global phenomenon. However, he was a big deal in Scotland. The 2-time recipient of the PFA Scotland Young Player of the Year died in 2007 after collapsing in a match. Miklos Fair. A young person's death will always be considered ugly. However, things can be so unbearable when a young player dies on the pitch. As much as this is a painful thing to talk about, it was exactly what happened to Miklos Fair on the 25th of January 2004. The Hungarian striker collapsed in a match between Benfica and Vitória de Guimarães. Although he got revived, he couldn't make it. Antonio Puerta. Unlike several players in this video that had great careers and went on to hang their boots before dying, Antonio died early. The former Sevilla and Spanish wingback collapsed in a match between Getafe and Sevilla. Although the player lost consciousness shortly after collapsing, he was able to walk off the field after he got treated. It all seemed okay until he collapsed in the changing room and was rushed to the hospital where he died. Marc-Vivien Foé. The day Marc-Vivien Foé died will always be considered a black day for African football. The late midfielder was on duty for his country at the Confederations Cup. Cameroon were up against Colombia and were leading by a goal to nothing. The match was supposed to last about 20 extra minutes when Foé collapsed. What seemed like a minor fall ended up being the player's last. Medical personnel in the stadium tried reviving the player, but all attempts failed. He died before making it to the hospital. Cheick Tioté. The football world will never forget Tioté in a haste. The Ivorian is definitely not one of the greatest players of all time. However, he was one of the best in his position. Cheick played for quite a number of clubs. However, he became famous as a Newcastle player and went on to spend 6 years at the English club. Tioté died in 2017, shortly after leaving Newcastle. He was 30 and collapsed during training. Davy Cooper. Arguably one of the most talented Scottish players of all time, Davy was famous among Scottish football fans as a match winner. The former Rangers player was a master at getting past defenders, and the fans loved him for this. Davy died in 1995 at the age of 39. He had collapsed while making a video. He died of brain hemorrhage. Davy's death was shocking, but no one saw the next player's death coming. Andrés Escobar. Planet Football has dealt with several shocking news, but the death of Andrés Escobar can be considered one of the most shocking. Escobar was young, full of life, and had just returned from the World Cup after his team got eliminated. This didn't seem like a big deal to the player who had 51 caps, but sometimes fans take things too far and things could end up being ugly for players. Escobar scored an own goal that got his team kicked out of the World Cup. Several people knew what would befall him and were against the idea of him going back to Colombia, but he felt all was well. On getting back into Colombia, Andrés visited a bar to hang out with friends. After leaving the bar, he got some uninvited guests. In the end, he was murdered because of his own goal. Although Escobar wasn't one of the most influential players of his time, his murder had a major effect on football in Colombia. Several Colombian players left the team because they did not want to become victims of murder. Escobar was murdered, but it is unclear what killed this next player. Gary Speed. Gary represented Wales in international football competitions between 1990 and 2004 and was the country's most capped player. He had 85 caps for Wales and featured in 535 matches in the Premier League. The former captain of the Wales national team was found dead in his garage on the 27th of November 2011. He was 42. Thanks for going all the way to the end. Before moving on, please like and share this video. Also, subscribe to this channel if you enjoyed this video. See you in the next video.